Good evening and welcome to All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church for our encore presentation of the immigrant experience. We're delighted that all of you are here with us, and we welcome also those joining us on live stream. In a few moments, we'll invite you to sing with us. The words will appear on the screen, and I hope you'll join in. Now we light our flaming chalice, the symbol of our faith, for the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all people. Now I invite us to stand and join in the words of covenant of our community. This is what we promise one another. Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please remain standing for our opening song.
Good evening. Before we begin, I'd just like to take a moment to introduce our musicians this evening. Our soloists are Sarah Labar, our soprano soloist, Nancy Nails, our alto section leader, and Tom Lancaster and Chris Cobbett are our male section leaders in our tenor and baritone sections. On clarinet tonight, we have my good friend Brett Jackson, and on violin, my new friend Cameron Gattenby, and my very dear friend Sasha Groshong on cello. So let's welcome these. Once upon a time, America boasted of pilgrims and pioneers.
Our nation celebrated the courage and vision of those who left old homelands for the sake of new opportunities and adventures.
It wasn't the story of millions of indigenous tribal people already living lightly here on this continent, displaced and destroyed by European colonials.
It wasn't the story of millions of Africans kidnapped and brought by force to foreign shores, their lives and labor stolen to build a heritage for others.
It wasn't easy for most of those millions who came from old countries, Irish, Italians, Jews, Swedes, Chinese, Mexicans, starting out with next to nothing, with only hope and family and faith.
Willing to go hungry, willing to do back-breaking labor, willing to let it be their children who would see the promise blossom.
When did we lose confidence, our confidence in that promise?
From the beginning, there have always been some who wanted to close the door, to grasp all opportunity into the hands of privilege, to shut out the stranger, to refuse the newcomer.
And yet, America Day owns its vitality to the waves of immigrants that have shaped it, to the energies of many heritage and the contributions of those who chose this to be their homeland.
In this new century, no less than centuries past, the need and the opportunity continue to be interwoven. The immigrant experience is still central to the spirit of our nation, to its courage and hope, to its vision for the future, to its greatness.
This evening, we celebrate that experience and that promise in music. And we invite ourselves to recommit to the practice of welcome that has been the best of who we are.
The compassion that calls us to enfold all who are driven by hunger and destitution, to protect those who flee from oppression and violence, to embrace all who seek a better life here in this land, who wish to be our good neighbors.
We welcome you, who gather to share this hour of reflection, to be reminded of our roots in the past and our responsibilities to the future.
May our minds and hearts be open. May we be inspired to be better neighbors, better citizens, and better human beings, who together shall build a better world.
is open to receive not only the opulent and respectable stranger, but the oppressed and persecuted of all nations and religions. Whom we shall welcome to participation of all our rights and privileges. If by decency and propriety of conduct they appear to merit the enjoyment, they merit the enjoyment. The bosom of America is open. A right which nature has given to all, of departing from the country in which chance or choice has placed them. What's your story? Did you struggle when you got here?
Good evening and welcome. My name is Naomi and I am part of the board for Advocates of Immigrant Rights and Reconciliation, and we are very excited to be here with you guys tonight. And part of the work that we do is to be a support for the immigrant community here in Kansas. We also like to educate people about what we can do. And also we like to learn how we can be more welcome to the community. 2 years ago in a meeting with Moore Square, we were talking about how can we talk, how can now more than ever we can be a welcome community. And one of the things that we talked was, let's open our home for those kids, for when families are separated. As a result, I was able to get me and my roommate were able to be foster home, and since then we've been having kids, because unfortunate, not always is a good journey when they come here. A few weeks ago, we have 2 little girls in our house. It's 9 years old and 6-year-old, sweetest girls in the world. Super happy. They were able to come to our house. We opened our home. We're having dinner. We have plantains, rice. They were so happy about the plantains. Me too. And we were eating, and we were like, tell us your story. Tell us more about how did you got here. And the 9-year-old have a big smile in her face, and she's like, I'm here because I want to go to school, and I want to learn, and I want to grow. And she's talking. They've been here for a month, and unfortunate, they were already separated from mom and dad. She still had a big smile, and with that big smile, she told me, my cousin was just killed in front of us, and we're just looking for a better place. And I'm like, seriously? You're telling me this with a big smile? And she kept with this big smile, and she's like, but we're here, and I know my mom and my dad are not here with me, but we'll be okay. We'll be okay. They were unfortunate. One of the reasons they were separated is because mom and dad were afraid to come to the police because they were undocumented. And there was a risk of being deported. So as a result, they were separated. Thank God they were able to be reunited, and they were back together. And actually, we just had dinner with them, mom and dad, and they're happy and they're together. And sometimes we think there's not a lot that we can do, but we can be a welcome community. Sometimes something so simple as having a dinner and a table, and smile and listen to their story. We can make their journey here a little bit better. So thank you for doing this tonight. We're glad that we can continue to encourage people to be a welcome community to those who come here and make the journey a little bit better. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carla, and I was born in Mexico, and I've been living here since I was 5 years old. I was actually here yesterday too, and didn't go very well because I started crying. I hope it doesn't happen again. So if it does, bear with me. This is a little brief synopsis of what I went through when I crossed the border with my parents, my mom. So yeah, I'll take you back to 1996. It's nighttime. My auntie Natalie wakes me. She says, "Wake up, someone is here to see you." I wonder who could it be. My auntie notices that I am too sleepy to walk. She picks me up in her arms and walks down the stairs. As we are going down the stairs, I am wondering who could possibly be waiting for me. We arrive to the living room and I see a lady smiling at me, asking for an embrace. Who is she? "Ven, mija," she says with an excited voice. I realized after time passes that she is my mother, Sandra. My mom explains to me that she is back for me. She wants to take me with my dad and my little sister to el otro lado, the other side. My parents left me in Mexico for 2 years because they could not afford to bring me with them. A few days go by and I am saying goodbye. After hours pass, we arrive to a place I have never seen before. I see a man and a woman talking to my mother while I wait patiently. My mom and I get into a car with strangers. It is broad daylight. I am confused as to why we are walking this long. All I see is my mom, 4 other people, dirt and dried up plants. I ask my mom if we are almost there because I am too tired. She does not reply. The sun is hot and it feels like it is burning my head. I do not see any buildings or homes nearby, just plants. My mom and I walk for hours. All of a sudden, we start running because we see trucks coming towards us. "La migra!" Border Patrol, my mom yells. As I run, all I want is to get in the truck so that truck could take us to our destination and not have to walk anymore. The truck eventually catches up to us. Those men are mean to my mom. They are yelling. They take us to a very cold place, and an officer hands me a cold Capri Sun as the other officer puts my mom in a cell. I am feeling relieved because I am drinking something cold. The officer sits me on a bench outside of my mom's cell, and I fall asleep. I wake realizing we were sent back to the city of Palomas, Mexico. It is the next day, 10 in the morning. I keep telling myself that these are just words, but they're images that I will never forget, so it's sort of hard. I am walking the desert again. I want to go home. This time, my feet are too tired, and I ask my mom to please carry me. So she does. The sun seems stronger today. I tell my mom that I can walk now, so she puts me down. A boy who was with us asks for some of my water. The boy accidentally drops the gallon on the floor. The water is gone. I felt my mouth very dry. I need water. I keep walking, but my body is heavy. I am thirsty, and I start to feel dizzy. Everything went dark. It is nighttime, and I wake up in a black car. I am dizzy and thirsty. My mom frantically looks for water. My head is pounding. I was so thirsty. My mom finds a bottle in the car, and a man says, "The water has been here for days." But I do not care. I chug the whole thing. The water was hotter than my grandma's morning tea. It burns my throat, but I drink it anyway. We arrive in Deming, New Mexico. They lead my mom and I to a room, and it was dark and dirty. Dead bugs everywhere. I am so sure this is not our destination. I mean, how could it be? I am once again confused. We try to sleep, but a woman says that we have to hide because the police is coming. We ran back to what looked like an abandoned storage room. That room was very crowded with old furniture and 4 other people. It smells bad. I am confused and I ask my mom what is going on. She says, "Agachate, put your head down." I hear helicopters and dogs and I see lights outside. I wonder what is going on. I am so scared and I want to go back to my grandma's house. Hours pass and I do not hear the helicopter, dogs, or see lights outside. We walk back to the room. I cried myself to sleep because I was so scared those bugs would crawl on me at night. We finally arrived to our destination with my dad and sister. Finally, it now feels like home. Fast forward to 22 years, I am a first-generation college graduate. Despite the struggles, I thank my parents, and I'm really, really thankful that I am here, because it truly has been better. It is up to us to work together and be compassionate and be the voice of the voiceless. We still have a lot of work to do. Thanks.
Hi. Hi. My name is Frida. I'm so thankful to have been invited to share my story with everyone tonight. This is really high. So I was brought to the United States from Mexico when I was 7 years old. And I had a similar experience to Carla, so I got really emotional when you were telling that story. I went a couple years without seeing my father. So when we were reunited again, I remember crying for a really long time, kind of like when you see little kids being reunited with like military parents, but this was a similar experience because, yeah, children who haven't seen their parents and being reunited is really touching. But I'm here to talk about my experience as a DACA recipient. So DACA, for anybody who might not know, is the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. So when DACA was first introduced, I was about to graduate high school. So I went my entire life growing up in secret. And I remember being, I think, around 13 when my parents explained to me what it meant to be undocumented. And when I remember asking them, like, when I was 15 and then 16, how like I wanted to apply for jobs like my friends were applying for jobs, or getting a license like my friends were getting licenses. And those were experiences that I wasn't allowed to have. That if I wanted to have, they would be illegal. And I was raised by parents who taught me to be as honest of a person as I could, because that was the privilege of being in a country like the United States. So having to miss out on opportunities like that with my friends, or just the average American experience, to me was always really hard. So when DACA was first introduced in 2012, the year I graduated, I felt like the luckiest person alive. Like I felt like God or whoever is out there was just like giving me a chance to experience some part of the American experience finally, after so long. So I remember applying for every college I could, and I remember filling out all of these papers, and they're tedious papers that you have to do every 2 years, but for me that was like a godsend. And I was like, take my money, like I want the experience. And I remember getting my Social Security card to work, and how I remember showing that to my closest friends, the people that I trusted the most. And they were like, yeah, I have one too. Like, what? And I was like, no, you don't understand. This is a huge deal. This is everything for me. This is the ability to work. This is the ability to apply for things that people take for granted. And it was such a privilege to me, and it still is such a privilege to me, to just be able to live with like this weight off of my shoulders. And I feel like I constantly have to tell this story, because it's like, I don't know how many times I've explained my experience as an immigrant, but I think for me it's always been about explaining how I will never not be an immigrant. That's forever a part of my identity, and how it's not an identity that is shared by a lot of people that I grew up with. I was raised in suburban Kansas, so it was like, I think I never had any friends that looked like me, that had families like me, or who knew my experiences. So when I first moved to Kansas City, I came in contact with organizations like KS Moda that helped me renew my DACA application, which is like $495. And I remember how nice it felt to have people constantly be supportive of me. And I think that's what this is all about, is just like being a welcoming group, and how much that means to be around people that I can talk to and be like, I'm undocumented. This is my experience, and I'm unashamed of it. And to be in welcoming hands, and maybe just like with a welcoming group, and having people look at me and talk to me and not treat me differently, because I always felt different. Thank you.
The land flourished because it was fed from so many sources, nourished by many cultures and traditions and people. Nearly all Americans have ancestors who braved the oceans, liberty-loving risk-takers in search of an ideal. Immigration is not just a link to America's past, It's also a bridge to America's future. Offering an asylum to the persecuted and oppressed of every nation and religion. The religion then of every man must be left to the conviction and conscience of every man, and it is the right of every man to exercise it as these may dictate. We have always believed it possible for men and women to rise as far as their talent and energy allow. Neither race nor place of birth should affect their chances. The United States should be an asylum for the persecuted lovers of civil and religious liberty.
And who had the courage to be here tonight. Thank you so much.
Well, you guys, I'm Angela Ferguson. I'm a member of this church, and I'm a member of the board of the Advocates for Immigrant Rights and Reconciliation. And thank you guys for being here tonight. We have a few other members of AIR here. And I got to hear this yesterday. Man, the second time is even better. It was like, man, I just had a heavy heart when I left here yesterday. It stayed with me all day, and I can't imagine, you guys have poured your hearts into this, and thank you so much. Thank you to the composer, because part of the deal for this choir to be able to do this piece tonight was that they agreed to contribute the offering from tonight's performance to a nonprofit group. And that group is the Advocates for Immigrant Rights and Reconciliation. As you know from hearing these stories, the visions of our founding fathers have not exactly come true. We have a long way to go, and the Advocates for Immigrant Rights is a group here locally that stands beside the immigrants as they're going through the deportation process, supports the families, and gives many know your rights trainings for folks so that they know how to live and how to protect their own rights here in our community. So your support tonight with the offering would be gratefully received, and we appreciate your generosity. Thank you for the offering tonight, and we will dedicate it to exactly that dream of opening our doors and opening our arms to love the immigrants amongst us. And thank you again.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fires of commitment. For all these we carry in our minds and hearts wherever we go. More than half a century ago, in the midst of the international tensions of the Cuban Missile Crisis, the renowned Unitarian minister A. Powell Davies told his people, "The world is now too dangerous for anything but truth, too small for anything but global kinship." So it is today. May truth and kinship be the watchwords of our thinking, our speaking, and our action as we build the future of our human community together. Go in peace.
Please stand with us and sing. Second page.